Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Riverside Chat with the Guardsman on. Subject matter: the Mueller report on the investigation into Donald Trump's collusion with Russia and obstruction of justice thereof, of that investigation. All right. First and foremost, I want you to understand I just got through about an hour and a half of briefings on this particular, not just from, Fox News Network or any of the news networks. I'm talking about, this is after nearly a month since the actual congressional hearing on the Mueller investigation, okay? Let's understand that this report has been public knowledge for at least 2 weeks. Congressional hearing on the Mueller report investigation, final conclusion. Findings are as follows. The Mueller report finds, quote, no evidence of collusion with foreign powers to undermine the political process of American election as pertaining to the Trump administration and the Trump presidential campaign. Furthermore, the Congress of the United States finds that there is inadequate evidence for charges of obstruction in President Trump's presidential campaign and the investigation thereof. Okay. Yeah, by the way, I do write that shit down. Ladies and gents, don't ever tell me that you've read the report and then say, oh, but Trump did it, with any conviction. Because if you've read the report, if you've listened to the senators and the representatives in Congress at the Senate committee meeting specific to the Mueller report, you will know for a fact that both on the Republican side and the Democratic side, that questions were asked, questions were answered, and no evidence has been found to state that President Trump, in one way or another, influenced the investigation against his person and his party about collusion with Russian agents in order to influence a political campaign. Furthermore, subsequent alternative findings of the Mueller report and investigation thereof found that there was, 1, deleted documents on a private server belonging to Miss Hillary Rodham Clinton. Ma'am, how the fuck could you do that? Furthermore, findings also conclude that Miss Clinton had classified documents upon this particular server. Actual justice system investigation found these particulars. How can you deny this now? It is blatantly in front of you. What's more, after grilling, I'm going to be straightforward and honest, even in the investigation against my person, specific to willingness to cause harm to another person, they did not, as thoroughly investigate me, which is surprising considering that I'm a political proponent of the Second Amendment, which is completely counterintuitive to California's wants and wishes. They didn't even investigate me as closely as they investigated Mr. Trump through the investigation of this Mr. Mueller and his team. So I'm going to point out to you that the findings are so concrete, solid, it's insane. Furthermore, on top, just to compound this gigantic pile of bullshit, you know, I'm starting to back it up here so I can, you know, go and plant the back 40. And not to get off topic, it has been found that Miss Clinton is not only guilty of perjury, through this subsequent investigation, but is guilty of treason. How is it that I am so crazy that I can't understand these things, yet I'm pointing this out to people before the investigation comes through, and then the proof is literally in the pudding? I'm sorry, folks. I gotta have a second to just laugh this off, because, you know, Mama always said stupid is as stupid does. Well, you know, I don't mean to take away from that particular that particular movie. You all know what it is. I do not claim that as my own. I just claim the fact that freedom of speech and fair use right there, okay? Stupid is as stupid does. And it's obvious, it's so blatantly obvious that it's perturbing. It has actually caused me no end of frustration, to say the least. So, now that we can all understand and be proponents of the facts, say for what the redacted material is, but, you know, even viewing that redacted material, I can tell you, it doesn't point at Mr. Trump. As a matter of fact, Miss Clinton ain't going to be running for the next campaign. Just saying. She says she's gonna. Boy, ain't that a joke. And before you go running off at the mouth saying, hey, you're a freaking super alt-right fucking crazy that belongs in insane asylums, I want to point something out to you. My dad was a liberal. My mom was a progressive. I'm an independent. An independent conservative. I consider any legislation that goes against the Constitution of the United States in any form or manner, regardless of its intent, is an act of treason. Blatant act of treason. Pretty much why I have not postulated any ideas why we should actually propose legislation against, say, the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or the Third Amendment or any of that. As a matter of fact, I've proposed against it. I've actually stated that, you know, yes, Muslims are counterintuitive to America. However, freedom of religion. So, yeah, Muslims, Islam, you are welcome in this country so long as you do not hold aught against the American political system. Okay? in particular, religion and politics do not coincide in this country. In fact, the whole "in God we trust" thing has been done away with. Unfortunate though it is, because still many Americans are very religion bound. Unfortunate though it is. I'm a faith-bound person. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual-ish. I actively hope. Let's say that, okay? I'm not a pessimist. I look at, the facts and I say, okay, this is what the facts are, and I hope that things are going to get better. Now, that's in my comment streams. Anybody who has ever argued with me or spoken with me or verified with me in those comment streams, you know who you are, and I respect you, and I thank you, all of you, even the ones who are unfortunately dumb enough to go and say, hey, you know what, he doesn't know what he's talking about, he's a fucking bullshitter, he's, just a mouthpiece. Let me point something out to you very, very clearly. Not a mouthpiece. These are not talking points. This is hard, cold fact that is laying out in the Constitution of the United States very clearly, and then further beaten out to a point of being cold steel, firm and adamant in its resolve, in the Bill of Rights. Now, yes, the Bill of Rights has been amended a further 17 times. However, that is because subsequently we realized, hey, guess what? Slavery's wrong. Forcing somebody to do something against their will, regardless of what you give this person, is inherently unequal in its manner. And it proves out the instance of belief that not all men are created equal. No, all men are created equally. We as a nation accept this. All men are created equal. And by that very foundation, all men, that includes women too, because you are part of menfolk, okay? You are human. So let's get over the bullshit right now of gender fucking identity politics and all that crap. If you don't understand the connotation men in the Constitution, the fuck out of my country. You need to honestly look at the Constitution, not just politically or partisanly look at the Constitution, but honestly look at the Constitution. Come on, people. I can verify without a doubt in my mind, Mr. Trump has actually done nothing wrong. I've listened to the findings. I have sat through the proceedings, redacted and unredacted. I have listened to the conversations. Peter Strzok, his girlfriend, can't remember her name because it just didn't really mean that much to me. Mass murderer Clintons, like plural Clintons. President Bush Sr., President Bush Jr., President Obama. They're being investigated right now. They are all being investigated right now. That's the redacted portion. That's what you're not seeing. And the evidence is pretty fucking damning. I mean, not against President Obama, but that's because he kind of wormed his way through it and, didn't answer certain questions because he knows not to answer those questions because he's a lawyer. By that same resolve, Miss Clinton might actually get away with it. But I doubt it. You don't commit treason in this country and walk away scot-free. Doesn't happen. I mean, for God's sake. They charged me with a possession of a firearm for being politically outspoken. And yes, having a firearm, but who gives a shit? That is the intent of the Second Amendment. Specific. So, my hat's off to your stupidity. I mean, y'all make me look smart. Let's just point out that, the subreddit I Am Very Smart points out that some of my conversations with people are actual evidence that my opinion can be influenced by an argument, because I become personally involved in that argument. Not because I don't know the facts, just because I don't remember them in that instance fast enough to be able to get them off the cuff so that people can't say shit. That's why I'm putting this all out in this video. The fact of the matter is, I am not only competent to stand trial, but I have proven out that I am not incompetent in the manner of being able to utilize a firearm safely and carefully, be compliant with police officers when necessary, and have a cool demeanor when necessary. Go figure. How many schizophrenics you know that can do that one? Guess I'm not so schizophrenic then, am I? See, I'm talking to a cell phone, but I know that you are watching on the other end. See, I was not born an idiot. Nobody is. As a matter of fact, I have a cousin who suffers from Down syndrome. And it's horrible. And it sucks. And it hurts me to even see him in that manner. I mean, I don't know how to tell you this without breaking down and crying. This is my cousin. This is a man I love like blood. And he can barely speak. But I love him, okay? For me to say that somebody is an idiot means that they are smart enough to know better, and they still commit the same stupidity. Yeah. Go figure. Same stupidity, different day, different handle maybe, using an alternative trolling account. I don't know. I don't care. What I do care about is that our country is getting back on track, doing what it needs to do. Getting their act right. You know, to put it in some of my friends' terms, getting a big ass healthy dose of act right. Y'all know who you are and I love you. I'm not trying to be like racist or none of that shit. Let me point out to y'all, I have a funny ass accent too. I know. That's my grandma's accent. I kind of grew up around it and it just kind of stuck. My own cousin speaks like this. He doesn't speak like I do. He speaks like regular people with no accent, with no... Okay. This is really difficult for me to do because enunciation means that I have to hurt my jaw in order to do so. And my stutter is more pronounced, which is precisely why I speak with an accent, because it stretches my jaw out, one, and two, it allows me to hide my stutter. So if y'all got a problem with ain't no or can't not, guess what? That's Southern grammar. Kiss my salty sack. For the rest of you, oh shit, I may have to do this particular over again. For the rest of you, I want you to understand. We are in a world of shit because crazy people don't listen to sense. They don't understand reason or logic. They don't understand the scientific method or the legal method or any of that. They just understand. You run! You run, you run, you run, you run, you run. I don't know. I'm sorry, I had to. You put yourselves out there. As for the rest of the world at large, conservatives, libertarians, independents, both sides, believe it or not, the independent is like right down the center, but having leanings somewhat to one side and somewhat to the other. So independents down both sides, okay? And to those considering themselves as being nonpartisan in this particular, which is actually the definition of independent, but we'll not go there. How do I say this? We're fucked, people. Because the left-right paradigm has come to a point where they cannot reach logical conclusion of sense. The Supreme Court ruled the other day, okay? The state of California must adhere to the definition of the Constitution in its inherent language. Does that not mean that shall not be infringed clearly points to the fact that any legislature concerning guns, concerning weapons of war or destruction of any kind in the United States for the use of by United States citizens in any manner, criminal or free man, is in effect a manner of treason. Supreme Court ruling. State of California versus the Supreme Court. Now that, of course, yes, it was in the concern of R. V. Wade. But it still can be construed as a across-the-board blanket statement on the Constitution and its inherent language. So my point is, legislature of the state of California, representatives to the state of California, get off your fucking high horse and do your fucking job. Or acquiesce to the indictments, because that's what's coming down. Trust and believe. The near future into the foreseeable future, there are going to be indictments handed down from the Supreme Court for laws negating the Constitution and laws being made without proper representation in the Supreme Court. Doesn't matter which circuit. Trust me now, people. Believe me later. Watch as it unfolds. If they're coming after you because you stood against the American people, there are still representatives in Congress, and the integrity of the voting system has been called into question by Congress themselves. Specifically, in this investigation. If the vote does not have foundation and basis and integrity, it cannot be trusted. And it is justification, specific and legal. And yes, I thumb my nose at anyone who says otherwise, because it is justification, legal. For indictments of treason, and if justice is not meted out by representatives of the Supreme Court, superior courts, state courts, and legislature, then in that manner, the Second Amendment actually has its verification, its reason for existence. I hate that idea. I hate that anyone would ever have to utilize force in order to enact a proper policy of constitutional representation. If it takes force, sorry, I'm a smoker. If it takes force to gain that representation, our justice system and our political system has failed. And the provisions within the Constitution and within the Declaration of Independence must be met. Those provisions are 1. That wherefore a long train of abuses and usurpations of the people result in absolute despotism. It should be the right and the duty of those people to throw off such government, if necessary, through violent recourse, in order to make for brighter future securities. And the provision according to the Constitution. Article 1, relating to provisions of military and civilian capabilities of the colonial, continental, united colonies. Okay? Because this is back when we were still a colonial state, subservient to England. Okay? All right. It shall be the point of the government to appoint appropriate military personnel in the interest of defense proper of colonial shores. Notice how I said colonial shores. This is according to the Constitution as it was written, not as it's written now, as it was written. Shall be the point of the government of the colonies, or Parliament of the colonies, to institute and appoint appropriate military personnel to the office of strategic defense of our country and to the king. Yes, that was actually in there at that point in time. Secondly, it shall be the point of the government, or it shall be the interest of the government. Sorry, point, my brain. It shall be the interest of the government to dissuade actions foreign against the United Colonies of the Americas. This is where Amendment 1 to Article 1 of the Constitution of the United States of America finds its resolve. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Notice how the language is different here between militia and appointed military. It actually states that there is appointed military and militia. Okay? Militia consists of the people being so armed. That is the legal definition of militia. A population being so armed. So, a militia, which is a population being so armed, is necessary to the security of a free state, because they keep that state from becoming less than free. So they secure that freedom. The right of the people. Doesn't say the government, doesn't say the military, doesn't say the judicial branch or the legislative branch or the executive branch or the police. It says the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Okay, now this means to keep and utilize, and in that effect furnish, meaning make, put furniture upon, meaning putting the stock on, putting the handle grip, whatever aesthetics, meaning laser pointers, flashlights, infrared sights, silencers, bullet buttons, extra magazines, bump stocks, depression stocks, modular rifle designs, doesn't matter. Furnish, utilize, and own. Okay, these are the three things which that particular keep and bear means. And then shall not be infringed. What does shall not be infringed mean? Not just to you as a person, but legally. It means, well, let's break it down first, okay? Infringed means to have, meaning past tense, crossed a boundary, meaning that the action has already happened of crossing a boundary. To bring negotiation, meaning that you bring a law or a bill that outlines specifics to be banned, or negates. Okay? That means that it outright says you may not. That's what infringed means. Now, let's go to the other part of it. Shall, meaning it is law. Kind of funny how that works out, you know? SHLL. Little bitty word, really big meaning. Shall. It is law. And law is the greatest thing in our country. It's what we all adhere to. Even the crazy folk, which is kind of funny because, in order to be considered crazy, you have to see things alternative to the majority. It is law that you may not. Okay? That's what shall not be means. It means that you cannot, by law, and then let's put the infringement part on there, cross a boundary, bring negotiation against, or negate entirely the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Which means that any law, and this is freaking straightforward, I don't know why lawyers can't get this, but 3-year-olds can. Literally, my nephew can understand this particular, and he's not even 3, he's 2.5. Come on, people! It means that any law that states that the United States may not have, that any person, group, or militia. I'm not saying the military. The military is a whole different can of worms. We're not going to get into that because that's Article 1 and it's all there. The militia not only have a right but a responsibility to bear arms. Specific. Not just keep them, but have them about your person and utilize them in an instance where they are needed. This is something that a 3-year-old can understand. I knew this when I was 5. As a matter of fact, I have all of the old books for that. There were children's books outlining this specific definition of the Second Amendment of the Constitution. How is it that lawyers, people who have college freaking master's degrees, cannot understand this? Is your brain too full? It is the responsibility of any individual to keep and bear arms specifically for the defense of others who cannot defend themselves, or who in that instance may be overpowered, meaning they cannot defend themselves. Is this so hard for you to conceptually grasp? I am one of 30,000 Americans? 300,000 Americans? 3 million Americans? Who the fuck knows? Okay? I am one of many Americans who understand succinctly what the Constitution is prescribing. If you have a problem with understanding the specific language of the Constitution, any one of us would be happy to explain it to you. As a matter of fact, we'd fucking be ecstatic. We'd be doing somersaults up to the pulpit. Come on! Is it so hard for you to understand that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed means specifically that the responsibility of a nation and an individual in specific is to have the most effective weapon of military capability in that time about their person? Meaning that legally I should be having an M4 or an M16 specific in my possession for the use of malicious effect. And that every bullet that comes out of that gun has to be verified and, has to be accounted for. I understand that one. That's actually part of American law. Every bullet that a service member fires has to be accounted for. And every serviceman must be accountable to where that bullet goes. I understand that explicitly. Probably better than a lot of our servicemen do. Probably because I have had those same weapons turned upon me for doing the right thing. For putting my dick on a chopping block, putting my ass on the line and saying, hey, there's crazy people out there. You need a gun. You do. Sorry, Jaws kind of keeps on pushing inside. Okay, so now that anger is out and that rant is out because for some reason our legislature cannot grasp previous law. What else is going on? It's just the rest of the state of the affairs in our union. Well, we're not a union right now. We are partisanly divided. Not congressionally divided, but partisanly divided. Meaning that it's not state against state. This isn't about states' rights. This is about individual rights. And individual rights means it is a partisan conflict. Unfortunately. States' rights conflict with individual rights. And individual rights are the interest of the federal government. Because if the individual right is taken, how can the government in particular continue to resolve issues legally without opposition? This is how our country has actually come forward throughout, decades of falling on our faces. Sorry, fly. I don't like flies. Anyways, this is why I don't understand why anyone would be legally allowed to take a firearm from anyone for any reason. Save that for utilizing it in that specific instance and can be verifyingly proven out beyond a shadow of doubt that there is guilt of an attempt of murder or murder particular. Other than that, a firearm should not be taken from any person, anywhere, anytime. Strong-armed robbery, nobody died. You were robbing a freaking convenience store to fucking pay for your family's food because you lost your fucking job because you were a dipshit when you were younger. Can't really say I'm mad at you. Doesn't mean I agree with your actions. But that doesn't mean that you should be absolved of your rights. Now, understand, I'm talking about strong-armed robbery here. This wasn't what my charge was. This is something entirely away from what my charge was. In fact, I have family members who have died during strong-armed robberies. So before you say, oh, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you're gonna get people killed. Understand something. The more that people are armed, the less gun crime and the less crime in general happens. How is that possible? Well, maybe because if there's one criminal and a bunch of fucking people who are packing, that one criminal is not going to be interested in fucking up. Now, this is part one of this particular series because obviously I'm going over time here. I can't complete this video before I have to upload it. So I want to point out to you, bear with me. The next installment is coming. Okay? Glad we hammered out the fact that the Mueller investigation has proven out that President Donald Trump, who actually I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. I voted Benjamin Weigel Veterans Party. But beyond that, all right? President Trump is not guilty of any collusion or of any specific obstruction of justice, because there has to be a crime in order to obstruct. So, I don't understand how y'all don't get this. Y'all can't comprehend the facts. Shit, folks in Britain understand what our freaking Second Amendment means. They really do. Funniest shit in the world, the people who made the bar, set the standard. Yeah. They're the ones saying this about the Second Amendment. Funny, isn't it? You know what's really scary? These people don't have a Second Amendment. At least not as far as the American Second Amendment. Yes, they have the ability to have firearms. They have the ability to have rifles and shotguns and pistols even, if they apply for a specific permit. They fucking hate that. Can't say I blame them. I also kind of understand why on that tiny little ass island, there's specific, you have to have a permit in order to utilize this. I don't understand why you would have to have a permit in order to own. Even in Britain. Mind you, tiny ass little fucking island in comparison to the United States. Not as tiny as some islands. But it is an island nation. Quite literally, the definition of a small area of land. Okay? Great Britain ain't all that big. There's a lot of people in Great Britain. So, yeah, I kind of understand why, population density, particular mechanics of a projectile. Yeah. Britain, you guys don't have that same ability, and I'm sorry. It sucks. At least you guys got air guns, right? You got the ability to have air guns. That's still a projectile weapon. Okay? But it's still to the same effect. Here in the United States, we have this particular clause in our Constitution for a very specific reason. And no, it's not for hunting. Even though I love the fact that you can utilize a firearm for hunting, it's not inherently for hunting. Okay? It is inherently for the defense of your own life and the defense of the community at large, aka the Commonwealth. So, in conclusion, at least of this segment, we understand our Constitution better than our legislature does. Our representatives are not representing us. They're trying their damnedest to. But they're still just falling a little bit short. And the bone of contention between the pit bull of the people and the Doberman of the dumbasses in democracy is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is the bone of contention. Nobody gives a fuck about the Mueller investigation anymore. We know it was bogus from the start. Okay? Even though you gotta let, due process do its thing, we knew it was bogus from the start. Okay? And to all of you who think that the legislature for crazy people to not be able to have firearms or deadly weapons of any kind, let me point something out to you. We can still have, or I'm not going to say we, because I don't consider myself to be crazy at all. People who are of a definition of being legally insane may still have possession of an adult air rifle. Any air pistol, because it is an air gun. And any bow. Meaning that, yes, they can have fucking lethal weapons, asshats. Legally. Now, no, they don't have the magazine capacity to be able to say, well, yeah, I've got a 50 caliber freaking GI, in a Colt 1911 configuration, so I got 7 rounds, And it only takes one arrow. It only takes one bullet. It only takes one pellet in the right place. Doesn't fucking matter if you've got a gun, you got a knife, you got a bow, you got a fucking nuke. It takes one shot. And if you're dumb enough to fucking understand that particular, then you're smart enough to understand that gun control legislation is entirely stupid on its face. Because it doesn't prohibit any other weapons. As a matter of fact, it doesn't prohibit tasers. That's a projectile weapon. It doesn't legislate against air guns. It doesn't legislate against compound bows, which everybody knows are lethal. It doesn't legislate against tannerite, a binary explosive. Guess what? Binary explosives under the under the regulations of the ATF, binary explosives may be utilized by any American citizen in any state of the Union. Now, some states you have to have a permit, but there you go. All right, we're almost at the end here, folks. If you want to see more, if you want to know more, if you want to find out what is coming next or what has happened, then please tune in to the second installment of Mueller, my God, Riverside Chat. This is the Guardsman, Commodore Blaine Price, U.S. Minuteman, signing off. American Patriot, forever freedom. Godspeed all. And may we not have to shed blood again.